Antoine, welcome. I'm sorry. Nice to have you here. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So we were just chatting a second ago. I'm trying to think when the last time I had you in here was, and you were trying to remember back. You said 2023.
I think it was on when we published the report on the renewal of the Liberal Party of Quebec. I think that was the last time, probably 2023. You look good. You look good.
As you don't age, which is really lucky for you. The last time we met was at the IGA on Charlevoix in the neighborhood, in actually the riding you're going to be running in now in this provincial election. So let me ask you, because it seems to me, before we went through this whole Pablo Rodriguez, Charles Maillard situation, you were going to run. You were planning to run. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I've been thinking about it for some time. I've been involved with the Liberal Party of Quebec for more than 20 years. I've done canvassing. I've participated in election, political organizing. I've done all sorts of things. I've been focused a lot on ideas and policy. And now I want to switch gears. I'm ready. You know, there are moments in life where you feel you're ready. You have something to say. You want to give back, and you want to get involved. And my way of giving back and being in service to other people is politics. And I'm passionate about politics. I want to be involved, and I want to run in Verdun because I want to give back to the people of Verdun. And this is the riding that we lost in the election of 2022. So we need to make our case in Verdun. I'm going to be, meeting with people in my riding, making our case for the Liberal Party of Quebec and Charles Milliard. And I'm very confident, but I'm taking nothing for granted at this point. I have to, run a good campaign.
You were going to run, as I understand it. You would have been the candidate to run even when Pablo Rodriguez was going to be, or was the leader of the party. We all know what happened after that. Was there some question to your mind? I mean, you run because this guy was going to be your leader. Now he's not there. There's a new leader. No. I was working back then, and I had just finished my PhD. I used to teach at university. I was also a consultant. No, that wasn't my timing. No, I wasn't ready at that point. Now I am, and I am doing nothing else than campaigning. My nomination was this week, so I gave my first political speech at the Verdun Auditorium this week. Kind of crazy. I mean, for people who don't know, of course, I think most people do. You are the son of Jean Charest, the former Quebec premier. My question was always going to be: Did your dad try to dissuade you from running, or you don't want to get into politics? It's a dirty game. Any of that? Your dad's been around for a long time.
No, not my dad. I think my mother was a bit worried. I think she still is a bit worried. But I'm going to say something trivial. I have a good relationship with my parents. I love my parents. They've given me a lot. Strong sense of values, and a strong willingness to give back. And I want to give back to the riding of Verdun. And they're an inspiration for me. And I hope they are for most people. I hope, but my parents are a strong inspiration for me. And I'm proud of my father. I'm also proud of my mother, Michel Dionne. I do like to remind people that I'm also the son of Michel Dionne. And that's important to me.
Why is that important to you?
Because they have been equally important in my life, period. They've been equally important in my life in different ways. And I think I'm 38 today, but I used to be like a lot of young boys, immature, didn't do very well in school, didn't read a lot. And I remember at some point my mother, she suggested that I do a bit of reading, and she's the reason why I started reading. And that reading in my life is very important. And Charles Milliard put forth his linguistic policy this week, and he insisted a lot on writing and reading. And I think he's right, and I agree. And I've also proposed ideas, when it comes to the French language and improving the French language in Quebec. And I think learning to read and write is extremely important. Right. So both of my parents are important to me.
So I would ask with respect to the French language, and we had Charles Maillard in here the other day, and I know the 7 pillars that he came up with, we were just chatting. I said, it seems to me, as good as that may be, as detailed as it may be, it's one of those things that I think goes over the head of maybe the average Quebecer. Because we're talking about the economy, how hard it is to buy groceries. We're talking about a healthcare system that's broken. And I anticipate that once the campaign gets here in August, that's what we're going to be hearing about. But up until now, that's not what we've heard so much about, other than generalities. How are you going to address that? Because that's going to come up when you start going door to door. That's what people are going to be asking about. What's your party going to do to fix the things that are broken?
So I'm running in Verdun. There are 3 things that people are concerned in Verdun: housing, affordability, healthcare services, education services, and there are surely other issues. But I think those are top of mind bread and butter issues that people are concerned with in Verdun, but elsewhere in Quebec as well. Now, when it comes to the French language, I don't think any political party can not have a position on those issues. I don't think that's acceptable. And I think our leader was methodical and serious, and he said, I'm going to take the time to make my mind and define my party's position when it comes to the French language. And I think it's important to Quebecers. And I think you can chew gum and walk at the same time. We should provide answers when it comes to housing affordability and healthcare, but we need also to talk about culture and the French language. Those are not mutually exclusive, and we need to find the right balance, and especially when it comes to the French language.
This is CJAD. The bulk of our audience are Anglophones for the most part. And I guess what we expect, and the history course suggests here in elections that this city, because there are only 2, CAC seats here, will probably end up voting Liberal as well. But you don't want to win sort of by default. You want to win because people believe in your leader, believe in his plan, believe in what he pledges, right? So from the English perspective, and I got, and he admitted this when I asked, and it's funny because I'm like, if this is something you've said all along, yet it hasn't resonated, it's worth asking again. The decision made by the CAC with respect to McGill, Concordia, and Bishops, right?
Yeah.
The fact that out-of-town students would be reduced, they'd have to pay that much more. We know that decision cost those universities hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenues, in teachers, staff that they had to get rid of, fire, because the money wasn't there anymore. And then this week, Christine Frechette came out and suggested, well, here, we're going to give you $20 million over the next 8 years, assuming they were in power, which they won't be for the next 8 years. So it sounds better than it is. And that was kind of, to me, people looked at that, and we heard the chancellor from Bishops, Sebastian Grenier.
Sébastien Lebel-Grenier.
Came on and said, well, that's great. It's a change in tone. Now, I understand when someone hands you $20 million, you say thank you. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, this was a decision that hurt these universities and will for years to come. Charest said, if I understood correctly, that if a Liberal government becomes the next government in Quebec, he would roll back that decision. Is that accurate? Is that
That's
what you
the party's
got from
position?
This? Okay.
Yes. There is no doubt in my mind that, well, for one, it's the party's position. Second, it makes no sense to raise tuition fees for out-of-Quebec students. And let's zoom in on Bishops University. So the CQ's government in the last year has been, well, there's a decline of the French language because of McGill and Concordia. Well, that remains to be proven. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. I really don't buy that. And let's zoom in on Bishops. Does anyone really think that Bishops University is the reason for is there really a decline of the French language in Sherbrooke? I'm from Sherbrooke. Lennoxville is now, part of Sherbrooke. There's no decline of the French language in the city of Sherbrooke in the Eastern Townships. Makes no sense. And you spoke about Sébastien Lebel-Grenier. Something incredible happened in Sherbrooke. There was a mobilization by the community and Sherbrooke University to support Bishops University in contesting the CQ's decision, and part of it was rolled back. So, of course, we want to scrap that decision. It makes no sense. And why is it? And maybe a simple point. McGill University is a Quebec institution. Concordia University, I went to Concordia University, is a Quebec institution. Why would we want to raise tuition fees for out-of-Quebec students who are ambassadors of Quebec culture, of Montreal? Why would we want to do that? That divides people, and if Premier Frechette says she wants to roll it back, or she's considering it, then good on her. She's coming to her senses. Thank God. But I don't think it makes any sense. Anglophone institutions in Quebec are Quebec institutions, period.
I want to take a break. I want to follow up on this. We'll just take a quick break for traffic and play a commercial, and then talk about the fact that this line that keeps getting repeated and repeated, and after Charles Maillard brought forth these 7 pillars, Jean-François Roberge wasted very little time in simply saying, look, they want to take away your French, the rights of French people here. So let me get to that in a sec.
It's the sounds of your city. The Montreal Now Podcast with Aaron Rand.
Welcome back. We are in a conversation with Antoine Dionne Charest. He is the Liberal candidate running in the riding of Verdun come the provincial election in October, and is in studio with us today. So let me pick up on what we were talking about, which was the announcement by Charles Maillard, the situation with French.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of stood out to me in that announcement, and it's something we've heard not just Jean-François Roberge, but the Premier himself say, François Legault at the time, I hear too much English in downtown Montreal. And it's something that is obvious. It's beyond eye roll inducing. It's one of those like, seriously? This is something you have a problem with? And of course, people point out his offices, the PQ offices are across the street from the Rada Gates at McGill. So of course, you're going to hear English there. But in Charles' sort of 7 pillars that he released, he mentioned one of the things was in guarding French in downtown Montreal. What's the concern here? Because I don't understand what that's supposed to say.
I think he wants to zoom in on if there are areas where there are concerns with the French language. I think he says we need to be more precise on where there are issues or regions or places where there are issues. I think that's what he's trying to, and then address them and say, okay, well, if there's a problem or if when it comes to francisation, for instance, he wants to put more money in it, and the CQ is rolled back in terms of financing francisation in Quebec, and that's a real issue. And I think he's right on that. And I think we should put more resources on francisation and putting more resources in francisation.
So for people, what does that mean, putting into francisation?
Making sure that there are enough people to teach French to newcomers, period. The CQ government has rolled back on that, and that's a big problem. Another thing is, right now with Bill 96, you have 6 months. If you're a newcomer, you have 6 months to learn French, and afterwards you need to communicate in French with the government.
Which seems ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Charles Milliard is proposing to roll that back and give in 2 years, so that it's now 2 years. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But providing newcomers the resources so that they can learn French is pretty fundamental. And the CQ government can't say on the one hand there's a decline of the French language, and on the other roll back financing of francisation, that is teaching newcomers to learn French. I think there's a coherence problem. And you spoke of Minister Roberge. I think Minister Roberge needs to answer a few questions. He's been saying for the last 8 years, as Mr. Legault has, that there's a decline of the French language. What's he done? What's he done? What's Bill 96 changed? How has things changed? They've been in government for 8 years, and they keep on saying the same thing over and over and over again. My feeling is they're not really interested in solving any problem if there is a problem. I think they're posturing, and I think they do like to divide because it's, politically it works for them. It's not good for Quebec. It's not good for Montreal. It's not good for the Anglophone community, and it's not good for Francophones either. But it seems that, dividing Quebecers pays off for the CQ government. And I think it also pays off for the PQ. That's not good.
This idea of the decline of the French language, which is, again, is boilerplate. We hear it over and over and over and over. And yet we had a study not that long ago that showed 98% of businesses around here were in perfect compliance with 98%. When can you ever see a number that high?
Yeah.
There is no issue with French, except the one being, as you just said, being created by the CAC. But I wonder, this idea is always, if there's that decline that they keep saying is there, it's been a zero-sum game, because how do you treat a decline if you're the CAC? You take away English rights of some kind, right? And that's obviously of concern to Anglos here, saying, why is it always us having to pay the price? We're not doing anything wrong. It's as if the CAC doesn't believe that Anglophones here, and there's probably a greater percentage of bilingual Anglophones now than there's ever been before, that somehow we don't think French should be promoted and protected, and that's beyond insulting. I think that's dangerous.
I think Anglo-Quebecers get it. I think they get it. They understand that Quebecers are a linguistic minority in North America. They get it. I think they understand that it's important to protect the French language and promote the French language. I think they get that. They get that part, and we get that. What we don't understand, and I think what a lot of people in the Anglophone community do not understand, is why do you have to stigmatize Anglophones? Why do you have to point them and say you are the reason because there's a so-called decline of the French language in Quebec? I think that's what they don't understand. Do they understand that Quebecers are a linguistic minority in North America? Yes. Do they understand that there needs to be some form of protection for the French language? The answer is yes. But why increase tuition fees for out of Quebec students? Why point fingers at the Anglophone community when they're not responsible for, if there is, a decline of the French language? Language is certainly fragile because we are a majority in North America. But again, I think they get it, and I think they're ready to move on. And I think there needs to be a balanced approach when it comes to language. We can respect the Anglophone community's rights when it comes to education and healthcare, and also promote the French language. Why does it have to be one or the other? And I think Charles Milliard's plan is trying to find that balance. I'm not saying it's easy, and it's certainly not easy to sell it. But I think we're better off trying to find the right balance between respecting individual rights on the one hand and the Anglophone communities and, on the other, and promoting the French language. We can do both at the same time.
You said it's not easy to sell it. I'm assuming you're referencing what it's going to be like in the regions where the liberal popularity continues to be very, very low. You're basically barely in double digits. How do you sell that to the areas that are going to decide this next election?
I want to say something. A couple of years ago, the Liberals were at 8% in the Francophone vote. We're now between 15 and 20%. There's been progress. Okay. Not enough. Are we there? No. Have we seen real progress in terms of support? Yes. So that's encouraging. And when I look at the polls, I see a three-way race. I also notice that right now a lot of people are not concerned about what's going on in Quebec City or at the National Assembly. They're concerned about housing affordability and other issues, and they're right. And I also think that, political parties need to focus on those issues. They are, and I'm sure our leader will come up with a plan and will speak on those issues. I think he's taking his time, and I think he's methodical. I think he's serious. I think he wants to give it time, and I think he wants to be ready come election time and say, on housing, on affordability, healthcare, education, French language. He's presented a plan. I think he's very serious on these issues. He wants to do it the right way, and he wants to, and he's taking his time to do it. Sometimes taking your time before you take a decision or think about it can be good, even in politics. Politics.
We have to wrap up. I would ask you, though, this was a debate yesterday, this idea that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, after he came out and accused the Provincial Liberal Party of somehow, being involved with organized crime, then there was the mise en demeure, and then the decision yesterday not to move forward, which I thought was and I've heard people say this on both different sides. I thought, you know what? If someone's going to call you a name for all intents and purposes, and you're going to threaten to sue, go ahead and sue. He chose not to.
So, okay, the PQ's leader's remarks are disgraceful, and I think they're beneath the office he aspires to, and they're beneath the issues that Quebecers are concerned about today. And I support Charles Milliard's decision. What he wants to do is consult with the party. That's his way of doing things. Fine. And whatever decision he takes, we'll support them. But again, I'm running in the riding of Verdun. I'm running in politics not because I want to slander people or defame them, but because I want to improve people's lives and I want to focus on the issues that they're concerned about. Politics is not about slandering, defaming, or insulting other people or political parties. That's certainly not the way I see politics, and I want to do politics.
I want to thank you for coming in. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
It's been a while, and I wish you nothing but the best. So, and I think a lot of people, you kind of offer a refreshing voice to a lot of people who wondered what's going on with the Liberal Party beyond Charles Milliard. So good luck to you, Antoine, and thank you for coming in. I hope
thank you for having me.
Speak again.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.